"You can't just walk in here like that." The words cut through the noise of Terminal C at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport like a slap. Captain Nathaniel Brooks paused, gripping the flag-draped case in his arms a little tighter. Dressed in full military chaplain uniform, polished shoes, gold-trimmed hat, and a silver cross around his neck, he stood tall, but the supervisor in front of him saw none of it. "What exactly is the issue?" Nathaniel asked calmly. The supervisor, a tall white man in his 30s, scoffed. "You're out of dress code, and this isn't a military transport. Passengers are complaining." Behind him, a TSA agent hesitated, watching silently. "I'm escorting a soldier home," Nathaniel replied, voice steady. "Still not regulation," the supervisor barked. "Unless you're military, which I doubt, this is impersonation." The nearby crowd shifted uncomfortably. Nathaniel didn't raise his voice. Instead, he lowered his gaze briefly to the coffin in his arms, then back up. His silence spoke louder than any rank. A woman nearby whispered to her son, "Don't look." But the boy kept staring. So did the rest of the terminal. Then Nathaniel took one step forward and said the sentence that would change everything. "This uniform buried heroes before you were born." The sentence hung in the air like thunder. The supervisor blinked, caught off guard. People around them stopped walking. A man near Gate 12 lowered his phone mid-text. A flight attendant stepped out of the jet bridge, frozen. Nathaniel didn't move. His voice was calm, but his eyes, deep, resolute, pierced through the shallow authority in front of him. The supervisor tried to recover. "Sir, I don't need the attitude. I'm just doing my job." Nathaniel tilted his head slightly. "So am I." More passengers started to notice. Murmurs rippled. The TSA agent shifted again, but said nothing. Then a woman stepped forward from the line, mid-40s, Latina. She pointed at the coffin. "My husband came home like that," she said quietly, "and no one dared stop the man who brought him." Another voice joined in. "That's a chaplain's uniform. I know because my uncle wore the same." For a second, the supervisor faltered. He looked around, saw the crowd growing. Still, he stepped forward again. "We can't let emotion override protocol." Nathaniel's hand tensed on the flag. His lips didn't move, but his presence made the whole gate feel like a chapel. And just then, the little boy from earlier took a step toward him. "Is that your son inside?" the boy asked softly. Nathaniel blinked, just once, then nodded. "Yes." A gasp rippled through the terminal. The mother rushed forward, pulling her son close. But Nathaniel knelt, holding the folded flag tighter. "He was 19, Nathaniel said. "Private First Class Jordan Brooks, my only child." The supervisor stepped back, the authority draining from his face. "I had to prepare his body myself," Nathaniel continued, "then walk him here through a nation too busy to notice." Someone in the crowd whispered, "Dear God." Nathaniel stood slowly, never breaking eye contact with the supervisor. "You wanted proof that I belong in this uniform?" He took a worn military ID from his pocket and held it up. "Chaplain, 22 years. I've buried sons that weren't mine. This one is." Silence fell. The TSA agent saluted. The supervisor opened his mouth, but no words came. Behind him, the flight captain appeared at the jet bridge door. A weathered man with silver hair, his eyes welled with quiet grief. "Captain Brooks," the pilot said, "we're honored to have you. The gate is yours." Nathaniel didn't move yet. He turned slowly to the crowd, and for the first time, his voice rose. "But will you walk with me?" The crowd didn't hesitate. One by one, passengers stepped forward. Businessmen, mothers, teenagers, even janitorial staff. No one spoke. They simply followed as Captain Nathaniel Brooks walked down the terminal, the coffin in his arms, the flag shining under overhead lights. A woman removed her hat. An airline employee took out his earpiece, placed a hand over his heart. By the time they reached the gate, nearly 50 people walked behind Nathaniel in reverent silence. The flight crew stood at attention. The pilot stepped aside. "He'll have the front row," he said quietly, "and the seat beside him will remain empty." Nathaniel paused before boarding. He turned once more toward the crowd. "Not for me," he said, "but for all of them who don't come home." A single tear ran down the boy's cheek. His mother knelt and whispered, "Remember this, always." As the plane door closed, the supervisor remained at the back of the terminal, alone, watching, humbled. Minutes later, the airline issued an internal override. No more restrictions for military escorts. The manager was placed on leave pending investigation. But Nathaniel didn't care for headlines. In row 1A, he sat beside his son's flag-covered casket and prayed silently. The flight was silent. No safety announcements, no music, no chatter. Just the quiet hum of reverence as the plane cruised east toward Atlanta. A flight attendant approached gently, placing a single white rose on the case beside Nathaniel. He nodded, placing his hand over the rose, then closed his eyes. Midway through the flight, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we carry more than passengers. We carry sacrifice." Not a single soul stirred. When the plane landed, no one reached for their luggage. No one stood. Instead, as the door opened, the pilot walked out first and saluted. Nathaniel followed, flag in arms. The crowd remained still. Ground crew stood lined in silence outside the gate. One man knelt. Another crossed himself. At the terminal, a military detail waited with full honors. A bugler lifted his instrument, but paused, watching Nathaniel. The chaplain raised one hand slightly. "No music," he whispered, "just presence." He laid the folded flag gently atop the casket as it was lowered. In that moment, the sun pierced through clouded glass above the terminal. And for the first time in years, Nathaniel allowed a tear to fall. No cameras, no speeches. Only silence. Because some moments are already sacred. Thanks for watching this video. Captain Nathaniel Brooks reminded us that true dignity doesn't demand attention. It commands respect. His quiet strength turned a moment of public humiliation into a timeless lesson on honor, sacrifice, and what it means to walk with grief in full view. Never judge the weight someone carries by what they wear. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment about the moment that struck you most, and share this with someone who needs to remember what silent strength looks like.